You're now tuned in to Nicole Whitney's News for the Soul highlights, life-changing spotlights she has shared with leading teachers in the human consciousness field since 1997. Go now to newsforthesoul.com to hear the full shows totally free. That's newsforthesoul.com.
One other experience that you're just gonna, this is just so far off the wall, it's unreal. I wanted to levitate, and this was so important to me. My God, if Thomas Aquinas, 240 pounds, can levitate, surely I can levitate. It's just, I want to levitate. And I would meditate, and then I would think, well, today I can levitate. And I would get in the tub and think maybe I could walk on water, and nothing happened, And this was so funny because my husband kept saying, "You're an idiot." And I said, "No, I'm going to levitate, and I'm not going to let go until I do." But then I came back home, and it was about a month or two later. One morning, I can't describe it. It was a feeling of euphoric. It's such a feeling that you can do anything. But I decided I was going to go to the little chapel right where I lived in Las Colinas in Irving. They have this Catholic chapel, which is about 2 blocks actually from where and I decided to go there and to meditate. And I got out of the car and was feeling just so. All of a sudden, I'm levitating I'd say about 3 inches off the ground. Well, there's a path that goes down, and there's steps, but there weren't any railings. There was nothing to hang on to, and I am petrified. Here I am, a little above, and I'm wobbling, and I'm disoriented. And would you believe I paddled like I would if I was swimming until I finally got to the front of the church, and they had a pillar there, and I put my arms around that pillar, and I said, "Okay, enough already." I'm talking to anybody that can hear me in the unseen world, and then a bunch of students that go to the college there walked up, and I'm still there hanging that post. That was so ridiculous. And then I got into the chapel, and I said, "Okay, take it away from me. I don't want this anymore." So decided I didn't need to levitate. And I'm sitting there. I'm saying, "Oh my God." This is what happened. All the while I worked for that man, things were happening that I was amazed, absolutely amazed. And he says, "Don't tell him this. Don't tell him this." One night he was talking, and we had I'd say about 40 or 50 in that particular class. But I would sit in back of the room because I was always have to be there, to sign people in and to answer questions and to have the coffee pot ready during breaks, etc. And I would sit there, and I would be amazed at all the people that were around Jose that were not in seats, from other dimensions. They were all just as far as I could see. These were beings of people. And one night I'm sitting there, and I'm looking because here's some people now that I hadn't really seen that are about, I'd say, 12, 14 feet tall, skinny, just long-looking people, and they're all just standing there behind Jose. During the break, a little woman comes up to me, and she said, "I'd like to ask you something." She said, "I've seen in these other dimensions as far as back as I can remember." But she says, "Tonight, I'm seeing these tall people that are 12 or 14 feet tall." She said, "I've never seen those before. Do you see this?" And I said, "Well, I'll ask Jose." So I got to Jose, and I said, I said, "We're seeing something different tonight here, this little old lady and me." And he said, He said, "They're from Venus." And then he walked off. And I would say, somebody, someplace has got to help me. And the phone would ring, and there would be an answer. Now, we can't do this on a physical. We're having help from other realms. That's the only way I can explain it logically, because this happened on a continuing basis.
Was there a lot of mind over matter work in the Silva training?
It was probably one of the most fantastic mental training classes you could have at that time, because, you know, in the 40s and the 50s, everything was the work of the devil. This was a lot of the newspapers wouldn't even let us put ads in their paper because it was the work of the devil. And so there was difficulty advertising it. I mean, people from other dimensions, they have the telepathic abilities by communicating. Let's get in the here and now.
Did you have any other kind of similar experiences with, you know, teleporting or going through solid things, or, you know, some of the other things we've heard stories about over the years?
None of this is vivid imagination. You are telepathically being told what to write, and it sounds like fiction or faction. But what it is, it's sort of numbing the public to when all of this transpires, and it's in an ongoing process now, in this evolutionary process. It's happening, but it's an upstepping process, and so eventually all of us will have this capability, communicating in other dimensions, going to other galaxies, other universes, etc. Light system, plant systems, and so forth. It's just an ongoing process. Well, I get in there with all the grown-ups, and they're at the foot of his bed, and the priest is there, and all of a sudden, through the wall, about, I'd say, 8 or 9 people walk through the wall, and they're kind of elderly, different ages, and my granddad, who is on the bed, and he can just gasping, sits up in bed, smiles, and then gets up, and they embrace him, and he walks through the wall, and while he's walking through the wall, he's laying on the bed. And now there's 2 grandpas there, you know, for this little 4-year-old or 3-year-old or whatever I was. And now I'm seeing that he's walking through this wall, but he's laying there. Well, this sort of perplexed me, and after we went out and everybody's crying, I told my mother, I said, Grandpa didn't have an angel. A lot of people came. He went with a lot of people, but no angel came to take him. And she couldn't understand because, you know, I expected to see this angel and was rather disappointed. And she said, well, my mother always said, there you go again with a vivid imagination, or you're lying. Don't tell anybody. They'll think you're crazy. So I squelched all that. I really squelched all that.
I don't know if this is going to come out or what.
Hello.
So how many did you see?
Goda? Hey.
How many did you see?
There's one there, one here. There were 2 over here that are not.
I saw 3 at one point, yeah.
Just keep focused.
Picking any of this up.
That just shot
past?
Yep. Yeah, there. Yeah, there.
See it? There's about 3 of them, and they get a lot bigger than that.
I see it now.
Brighter.
There.
It was so bright before. Must have been closer or stronger.
It was very big before.
It was huge.
There it is. That's dimmed there.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we were watching last night for hours, but this one that we just saw
got really big. There's like about 3 of them.
Ooh. What's it doing now? It's got a reddish hue to it now.
I have no idea if I'm getting this at all. Oh, they're moving!
Check them out!
Woo! Whoa! Oh God, I hope I'm getting this on film. UFOs, Dave. We've been telling you all night. There's 2.
There's that bunch of llamas running around up there with headlamps on. That's right, it is, isn't it? Mind you, they're moving very quickly.
Yeah, that's pretty fast llamas, Dave. They were up in the sky, and now they're... Yeah.
That is amazing.
Oh my God, that was
Woo!
they're right
Whoa!
Check this out.
I think one's coming over here.
UFO simulation. We don't want the UFO simulation.
They're not real. I don't know what they are.
Oh my God, one of them looks like it's looking at us.
That is. Let's go.
Which way do we go?
There's 2 lights. There's 3. There's 3 lights now.
Yo no sé, ¿cuánto? ¿Quién está en televisión?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's moving really fast. Can you guys see it?
You're now tuned in to Nicole Whitney's News for the Soul highlights, life-changing spotlights she has shared with leading teachers in the human consciousness field since 1997. Go now to newsforthesoul.com to hear the full shows totally free. That's newsforthesoul.com.
Hear all of our previously aired broadcasts of News for the Soul online at newsforthesoul.com. Now let's get back to the show.
And we're live. I'm Nicole. This is News for the Soul, life-changing talk radio from the uplifting to the unexplained. Can't imagine not having that covered in the next conversation. Last week, we introduced you to one Helene Hadsell, who is an amazing living example of really living and being the law of attraction. For many, many years, she has won every contest she's entered and applied this to her life in many ways in much deeper levels beyond that. So today we're kind of having part 2 of the discussion where we left off. Hopefully we'll start there. Let's welcome her on and start the fun. Helene, welcome back to News for the Soul.
I'm here.
Hi, how are you today?
Great, great. I was just listening to your entree, and it reminded me of Peru.
Yes, I've actually got some very interesting audio clips from Peru that you didn't hear there yet. We did some interesting work there in reliving some of the processes in the sacred sites with Shaman Bridge Jorge Luis Delgado, and we had amazing experiences over there.
Let's close our eye, we take our hands, I promise you I will have my open eye, okay? Then we will take you to a place that it is nice to see the place, okay? And after that, when you see with the spiritual eye, you just open your eyes, okay? So it is very important for us to practice, and in special in the power places. So your spiritual eye gets wider. Okay? Okay, Pascual is with us also. He's going to give us some information. And we said, ¿sabes qué? ¿Por qué no lo corremos nomás hasta ese punto y de ahí, ¡pum! ¿Ya?
Okay, good afternoon, friends, to everybody.
Hello.
Later I will explain many things.
Yeah, it's definitely been a strong influence on me ever since that moment of experiencing Peru. It was very powerful.
Did you visit the egg lady while you were there?
No, who's the egg lady?
Of course, I was there 2.5 months, and so I was able to get into places that not the ordinary person can get into, because I wasn't doing really psychic work. I was doing self-awareness classes. But the wealthy entrepreneur that sponsored me introduced me to a lot of interesting people, and one was the egg lady, and she is the healer there in Lima. And when I went there, what she requires, when you call her, she requires that you bring a dozen fresh eggs directly from the market. And when you get there, you lay on a cot, and she takes an egg and runs it over your body. And then she just is sort of mumbling and whatever it is, and then she breaks the egg in front of you. And sometimes there's black in it, sometimes there's blood in it, sometimes there's just like gook, really.
Ew.
And then she deposits that in a container, and you're watching this whole procedure. And then she'll tell you, well, someone has given evil thoughts to you, and it's concentrated in your stomach or in your throat or whatever. And she continues to do this until the eggs are clear, where there's no more of this information, anything that's negative in it. And then you get up and you see all these eggs and the gook and so forth. Now you have a clear egg, and then you give her the money for what you think it's worth, donation, and then you're healed. And then you walk out and you feel great. Well,
wow.
Yes. And so what I was doing the workshop over there, one of the students highly recommended her and said she'd never gone to a doctor because the egg lady could heal her. And I thought, this I've got to see. So we made an appointment, and I get over there, and I have my dozen eggs, and I get into her inner sanctum, and I'm about to lay on the cot, and she looks at me, and she said, you know what I'm doing. Why are you here? And first a minute I was a little startled, and I said, no, I'm sincere. And she said, are you trying to disprove me, or are you here monitoring me, or whatever? And then I said, no. Well, then I realized, she has tremendous sensed that I wasn't legit. And I said, no, I was actually here for a healing. And she said, you don't need a healing. You know what I'm doing. Well, then I established a rapport, and I found out that her mother did this, her grandmother did this in the villages, and that's the way they made their income, was doing this. And then I also realized when you're in the presence of someone that has tremendous abilities, mind over matter abilities, what you're seeing as she's depositing these eggs into this thing, creating thoughts, and then you can, something like the fakers in India, that illusion is what it is. And so illusion was what she was doing. There were no, to my knowledge, there wasn't any black in an egg or blood in an egg or anything. It was just illusion, and she was projecting it to you, and you could see it. And so I thought, now that's interesting, but I said, no. I said, I just came here to meet you, and I'm glad that you're able to help people to help themselves, because a lot of these things are psychosomatic, and eventually they'll be healed anyway. So if you can convince them that they can do this, and then more power to you. I'm so glad I met you, and then we left on a good note. So that was great.
Wow. You found that there was it all thought form? Was there any, did you feel it was beyond just changing thoughts? Anything legitimate going on physically with it?
No. No, this is all illusion. And because she immediately knew that, she broke an egg, I would not. You can't put the bull over my eyes. Right. I've been in this long enough to know what people can do. And yes, several times I've been fooled in this research that I do. I'm not naive. I'm not a skeptic. I just observe, and I want to understand, and I discern in every area that I get into. While I was there also, I was very, well, I could say sought after, because this entrepreneur that invited me owned the radio station, the discotheque, and was very, very wealthy, and he had influential friends. And so these people would come for I took the tarot cards, and, you know, doing the tarot has nothing to do with what you pick up when you're reading for people. You're sitting beside them in their aura, and you can read them. I mean, so what else is new? I think everybody has this capability, but they don't realize it. And so that's, in essence, what I was doing. And then most of the people spoke English. There were a few of them that I couldn't communicate with on this basis, but when I first got into Peru, my friend that sponsored me had a morning coffee for me, where all his wealthy friends came. And as I was standing there, a woman that was an artist and originally came from, I believe, from Russia, came in and embraced me and started sobbing and said she was so glad to see me again. And I kind of looked at her, and then all of a sudden it rang a bell, and I said, were we nuns together in Spain? And she said, yes. I never thought I would meet you again. And she said, while you're here, I'm going to interpret for you. I speak 7 languages, and you're going to be here for several months, and we're really going to have an interesting exchange of ideas. And from that point on, we were hooked together continuously. Many times I was invited to very wealthy homes on the outskirts of Peru. They would come in their chauffeur limousines with their guards and then take me on the premise, and I saw some things there that would just boggle my mind. Some of these wealthy landowners had their own bakeries, they had maid services, and one particular family that I spent several days with, and she was very impressed. She wanted me to stay there as her house guest for 2 months, which I declined. But the morning I got there, her maid came in with a loaf of bread, and she said she made it just for me, that I could cut it, and he made it with love, and it was a fun thing. Even if I couldn't communicate with some of their language, I could still, pick up their energy, and it was all very, very satisfying, comforting, rewarding. And when I was there was rioting on the streets and curfew, but I never was apprehensive, even when I was in Cusco. And, you would go on the streets and you were told never to wear jewelry or purses or anything. They would cut off your ear or cut off your finger for a ring, or at least that's what I was told. But you put the protective light around you. You don't worry about this. So I would just go where I wanted to go, do what I wanted to do. And even one of the young men that was the desk clerk at the 5-star hotel that I stayed in Cusco, he just couldn't believe that I would go out on my own without a guard. He insisted that somebody go with me. And I said, no, I wasn't concerned about this. So it was an interesting thing. And then when I went into Cusco, I could see through walls. When I went into the monasteries and when the Spaniards came over and took all the gold from the Peruvians and brought over their belief systems that if you didn't believe in Jesus and their concepts that you would be annihilated. And it was a very, very sad period in history because of the power and greed mode in the name of Jesus or in the name of a religion that they believed in. But it was all greed and power, and it was a very sad situation. I just would go around and observe. Didn't make a big fuss about it. And one time I was invited to one of the women there that is very, very, very psychic, and she worked for the government. I spent a day with her. She said she would lay out maps of Peru and then run her fingers through the map, big table they had for her, and she could tell when there would be earthquakes, and he would warn the people in that particular area to move out of that area because there were always underlying earthquakes there. And she was very unpretentious. And then while we were there, I also was invited to a private home where this man indicated that there was a man in the environment there that claimed he was from the planet Trone, Trune. I've never heard of that planet. And he said the man would come and he would write in any language that he wanted to write. He said he was diversified, he was intelligent, and the man that claimed, we went to his home as guests there, and with 4 or 5 of the other followers of this man that came from Trone. And I said, well, I'd like to see him. And the man that owned the home there said, well, he's not available, and he comes in and out, and we never know when he's here. And he was going on and on about how important he was and how he would write information, and then he starts showing me what the information was, and it was in a different language that I couldn't read, couldn't even understand. But one of the gals that was there translated it for me, and it just sounded like our Bible. You know, there was nothing profound. You know, the 10 Commandments, do unto others as you would. It was all positive, all positive. And he said, he claimed that if we practiced these principles, there would be no more wars, there would be no more illness, and he came in peace, and he was going to start out in Peru. And so I thought, well, this is very interesting. But I said, don't you have a picture of him? What? Nothing? And the man, he said, no, you can't take his picture. And I said, can you describe him? And he said, well, yes, I can describe him. And then something else happened. And I was sitting beside the woman that reads the maps. And all of a sudden I said, do you see this man in the corner that's looking at us? And she said, no, but I can feel him. And I said, well, I can see him. I wonder if he's a thought form, or is he, comes from his own volition, which sometimes you call an epiphany. And he was just there smiling. And in a minute, he smiled, and then he faded away. And she said, well, I felt tremendous energy, and I knew it wasn't with any of the 5 of us that were in that room. And then I asked our host, I said, can you describe the man that claim comes periodically in and out and writes all these things? And I said, well, let me describe him. And I described him. And he said, oh, you saw him. And I said, well, did you see him a little while ago? Things like that just fascinate me. And what fascinates me more is when someone can see what I see without sitting beside me. Because if you sit beside me, then you can probably see the same thing that I can. So I want to remove myself completely, and then you're on your own. So what do you see? I mean, that always intrigued me.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, when you're getting validation like that, and you're having your own direct experience with it, that's so powerful. It's like about 1 billion questions I want to ask you, of course, but we don't have time for 1 billion. So,
well, that was Peru. That was well, there were so many other things. Christmas Day, I was at a mental institution. One of the women that came for readings, husband was in there, and this guide appeared while I was talking to her, and he wanted to get out of this institution. And so I didn't say anything, and I said, well, why don't you release him, and then he can lead his life, you can lead your life, and that's it. And she said, well, I'm still fearful of him. I will have my driver pick you up, and we'll take you to visit him Sunday, which was Christmas. And I said, okay. She said, he's not even going to know we're coming or anything. I just want you to observe him, study him, and then if you tell me it's okay, then I will release him. Because he'd been there 3-4 years. The rules in Peru, when you're in a mental institution, your funds are frozen. And she was without money, and they were very, very wealthy. And so it was in details that you're not interested in. But as I'm walking up, this is a private mental institution. We drove up, and we're coming to the door to open. The guard is opening the door and this man comes hurrying toward me, and he comes over to me. He said, you're the one that's going to get me out of here. And I said, well, why don't we talk?
You're now tuned in to Nicole Whitney's News for the Soul highlights, life-changing spotlights she has shared with leading teachers in the human consciousness field since 1997. Go now to newsforthesoul.com to hear the full shows totally free. That's newsforthesoul.com.
So that's always interesting. You know, when I don't really and truly set anything up, one other experience that you're just gonna, this is just so far off the wall, it's unreal. I wanted to levitate, and this was so important to me. My God, if Thomas Aquinas, 240 pounds, can levitate, surely I can levitate. It's just, I want to levitate. And I would meditate, and then I would think, well, today I can levitate. And I would get in the tub and think maybe I could walk on water, and nothing happened, you know. And this was so funny because my husband kept saying, you're an idiot. And I said, no, I'm going to levitate, and I'm not going to let go until I do. Well, at that time I was on lecture tour, and I was up in Chicago, and I had just done a talk show, and I'm getting ready that night to have what I just call an introductory lecture. Most of these people wanted to be winners, and actually what I did the first night was do a book review on the Name It and Claim It game, and then I would say if there's anyone that wants to know more about themselves, and then Saturday and Sunday I would do workshops. And anyway, I was just getting ready to do my program when the man sponsored me. He says, there's an old man that wants to talk to you. Now, I want to tell you something. I had never mentioned to anyone on the air, or anybody knew that I had this desire to levitate except myself and my husband. The only two people that knew. But this old man approaches me and said, honey, you don't want to levitate. And I said, what? He said, you don't want to levitate. And I said, why do you say that? And he said, well, while you were on the talk show, your guides told me to approach you. You don't want to levitate, young lady. He said, it's a nuisance. He said, I do this, and I'm living in the country, and I have my dog, and I like to walk the woods. And in the morning, when I levitate, he said, it's such a nuisance, I have to hang by a tree until I finally am grounded. But if you're going to insist on it, he said, pretend like you're wading in water, you know, with your hands, paddling in water like you're swimming. And he says, that's the only way you can be balanced when you're off the ground. And he was so serious. And I thought, well, I said, thank you for that information, and I appreciate it. And then he walked off. And the man that sponsored me said, what was that all about? He was so insistent on talking to you. And I said, oh, we'll discuss it later. And then I didn't. But then I came back home, and it was about a month or two later. One morning, I can't describe it. It was a feeling of euphoric. It's such a feeling that you can do anything. But I decided I was going to go to the little chapel right where I lived in Las Colinas in Irving. They have this Catholic chapel, which is about 2 blocks actually from where and I decided to go there and to meditate. And I got out of the car and was feeling just so. All of a sudden, I'm levitating I'd say about 3 inches off the ground. Well, there's a path that goes down, and there's steps, but there weren't any railings. There was nothing to hang on to, and I am petrified. Here I am, a little above, and I'm wobbling, and I'm disoriented. And would you believe I paddled like I would if I was swimming until I finally got to the front of the church, and they had a pillar there. And I put my arms around that pillar, and I said, okay, enough already. I'm talking to anybody that can hear me in the unseen world. And then a bunch of students that go to the college there walked up, and I'm still there hanging that post. That was so ridiculous. And then I got into the chapel, and I said, okay, take it away from me. I don't want this anymore. So decided I didn't need to levitate.
You're now tuned in to Nicole Whitney's News for the Soul highlights, life-changing spotlights she has shared with leading teachers in the human consciousness field since 1997. Go now to newsforthesoul.com to hear the full shows totally free. That's newsforthesoul.com.
But why? See, to me, life is either a daring adventure or nothing. And I'm telling you, I would get in with people or places or things that each time I came home from a lecture tour, I'd be on maybe 2 or 3 weeks. My son, who was going to college that time, and my husband and my son would say, "Don't tell Dad anything until I get home. I want to hear it." Because it was always so different. So I'm so pleased that my guides, all I can say is I'm so pleased that I was able to have all these experiences, and most of them, to me, are very credible, to me actually happened, and there's no logical explanation except people will say, well, you're lucky, or it's a coincidence, or it's a happenstance, and I don't believe in that anymore. I don't believe in coincidence. There's just no way, because there were just too many things that happened. When I was working for Jose as PR, he wanted me to go and open the Chicago area. And I said, I don't want to get on a plane. I'm not that qualified to handle all this. Get yourself another girl. He would say to me, we'll talk about it. And that night I came home and I said, he thinks I'm going to go to Chicago and find a suitable mating place, put ads in the paper for him. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't need to do it. And my husband, who was very grounded, and really and truly, we were married 60 years, so I think he needed me and I needed him. But anyway, he said, you've taken the silver classes. Why don't you practice what you preach? Because I didn't really enjoy being on a plane. I had some kind of a phobia over. I just didn't care for it, and so I became hurt actually because he's siding now with Jose, and Jose left for back home, and I'm supposed to now make all these arrangements to go to Chicago. Well, that next morning, after a night of acting like a child and pouting, I sat there. My husband was off to work. Kids were gone, and I said, okay, if I'm supposed to go to Chicago, somebody better help me. If this is supposed to be that Jose goes in there and shares his experiences, then I need some help here. I swear it was not 10 minutes later when the phone rang, and it was Mrs. Hadsell. I said, yeah, I'm Mary Green, and that's her name. And she said, I read an article in Pageant magazine, a publication that's no longer available, but there was an article that I co-wrote with someone about entering contests. And she said, I read about you in this article. I'm not interested in contesting, but you said one paragraph about Jose and how you stopped the bleeding with mind over matter. I must meet this man. Where can I attend one of his classes? And I said, well, I'm supposed to come to Chicago and set up a suitable meeting place and do ads in the paper and have a room full of people for him when he comes. Oh, no, you don't have to do that. She said, I represent a shoe company here, and I make all arrangements for various companies that come in here for conventions. So I'll find you. I'll get your room free, and I will put ads in the paper. And what else can I do for you? You don't have to come here. And I'm sitting there. I'm saying, oh, my God. This is what happened. All the while I worked for that man, things were happening that I was amazed, absolutely amazed. And she set up all of this for me. Didn't have to do a thing. It happened the same way when I was to go to Detroit. There was a man that volunteered. I never even said anything. All I did was telepathically communicate. And I would say, somebody, someplace has got to help me. And the phone would ring, and there would be an answer. Now, we can't do this on a physical. We're having help from other realms. That's the only way I can explain it logically, because this happened on a continuing basis.
Was there a lot of mind over matter work in the Silva training?
It was probably one of the most fantastic mental training classes you could have at that time, because, in the 40s and the 50s, everything was the work of the devil. This was a lot of the newspapers wouldn't even let us put ads in their paper because it was the work of the devil. And so there was difficulty advertising it. And Jose was so low-keyed, and he knew. In fact, when I started working for him, and he says, don't tell him this. Don't tell him this. One night, he was talking, and we had about 40 or 50 in that particular class. But I would sit in back of the room because I was always have to be there, to sign people in and to answer questions and to have the coffee pot ready during breaks, etc. And I would sit there and I would be amazed at all the people that were around Jose that were not in seats, from other dimensions. They were all just as far as I could see. These were beings of people. And one night, I'm sitting there, and I'm looking because here's some people now that I hadn't really seen that are about, 12, 14 feet tall, skinny, long-looking people, and they're all just standing there behind Jose. During the break, a little woman comes up to me, and she said, I'd like to ask you something. She said, I've seen in these other dimensions as far as back as I can remember. But she says, tonight, I'm seeing these tall people that are 12 or 14 feet tall. She said, I've never seen those before. Do you see this? And I said, well, I'll ask Jose. So I got to Jose, and I said, we're seeing something different tonight here, this little old lady and me. And he said, they're from Venus. And then he walked off. So I told her, I said, they're from Venus. And she said, I said, why did you come here? And she said, I heard about him. We had a radio talk show that day. And I said, I heard, and my guides told me that I had to come and to meet him and to take his class. That's how she got there. But those were things like, so what else is new?
I keep thinking that you either never shut yourself down from these experiences, or you must have had some really dramatic things happen before all of this came about, when you were a child.
Yes. At the age of, 3 or 4, when I was born a Catholic and raised a Catholic, and everything was church, etc. And my grandmother had this huge picture of an angel, and she always talked about the angels, taking care of me, etc. And then when my granddad became so ill with asthma, and he was on his deathbed, she said the angels were going to come to take him. And so the funeral, he was in the bed, and all the family was surrounded with the family, and I'm just a little kid playing with my cousins and nephews and nieces in the back, and the older people were in the house, and the priest had just come to perform extreme-unction, last rites. But we were, as grandchildren, we were called in to say goodbye to Granddad. And so we all went in, and Grandmother was sitting in her chair, and she said the angels were coming to get him, and I assumed this angel was coming to get him. And so after we went out, I insisted that I wanted to be in the room to watch the angel come and get him. And my mother couldn't control me. I was creating a scene, and she said, all right, you can stay in here, but, she said, don't you say a word. Well, I get in there with all the grown-ups, and they're at the foot of his bed, and the priest is there, and all of a sudden, through the wall, about, 8 or 9 people walk through the wall, and they're kind of elderly, different ages, and my granddad, who is on the bed, and he can just gasping, sits up in bed, smiles, and then gets up, and they embrace him, and he walks through the wall, and while he's walking through the wall, he's laying on the bed. And now there's 2 grandpas there, for this little 4-year-old or 3-year-old or whatever I was. And now I'm seeing that he's walking through this wall, but he's laying there. Well, this sort of perplexed me, and after we went out and everybody's crying, I told my mother, I said, Grandpa didn't have an angel. A lot of people came. He went with a lot of people, but no angel came to take him. And she couldn't understand because, I expected to see this angel and was rather disappointed. And she said, well, my mother always said, there you go again with a vivid imagination, or you're lying. Don't tell anybody. They'll think you're crazy. So I squelched all that. I really squelched all that. And yet, even when people came, I'd say, if I went to Mass, we had to go to Mass every morning before we went to school. And there would be a funeral there. And I kid you not, here would be this casket, and this man would be in the funeral, but he'd be sitting there looking out at the audience. There were so much. I couldn't understand any of this. And I just sort of thought, I'm not going to tell anybody. They'll think I'm crazy. They may even put me in that crazy place that one of the neighbors had been in for being crazy. And I thought, if I keep saying that, that's what they'll do with me. So I never discussed any of this. I just let it go. And then when I was 17 years old, I had rheumatic fever, and I was in bed and really incapacitated. And at that time, there wasn't anything they could do except bed rest and liniment, and then penicillin about that time came out, and the local doctor would come and monitor me and give me a shot of penicillin. Well, one morning, he came and he said, he can't do that anymore because my heart, now if there's a valve that's open, my heart is enlarged, leakage of the heart and so forth. She's allergic to it, can't give her any more aspirin, and he says, we're just going to let God take over. And I heard him while he was discussing it with my mother. And so that night, and I was really, if you've ever had rheumatic fever, it jumps from one area to another. It is utter agony. And they prayed and so forth, but nothing seemed to help it. But that night, I got very angry, and I said, okay, I want to die. I'm ready to go. I don't want to be here and be a burden any longer. And if I can't get up and do anything, I want to die. And that's when this being appeared. And he said, you can't. He said, you came in here to do something, and you haven't started yet. You're healed. And when he said I was healed, and then he left. And I shouted to my mother, I said, come in here. And she came in. I said, this man was here, and he said I was healed. And she said, oh, you just had a dream. So she threw back the covers, and my ankles were still swollen, and my arms were swollen. And she said, see, you just had a good, nice dream. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And the next morning, I jumped out of bed, and I said, I'm going back to school. I'm healed. And she looked at me, and she said, we're going to call the doctor and see what he thinks. And he came by later that afternoon and checked me over, and he said, I guess it's taken its course. She's perfectly all right. Let her go back to school. And that was one of the experiences I had at 17.
You mentioned the levitation, which
yeah.
I'm assuming you didn't do anymore.
No, I didn't do anymore.
Did you have any other kind of similar experiences with, teleporting or going through solid things or, some of the other things we've heard stories about over the years?
I can't, right off the bat, I can't remember. I can't think. I do know that when I had something, people prior to my knowledge of me knowing anything about it, things would happen. And I always attributed it to my guardian angels appreciating or like clapping of hands or whatever I was doing, if I was doing something like a reward, These things were very prevalent while I was out on the lecture circuit. Absolutely. I mean, some of the things that happened to me would just, I would squeal with delight because they were unexpected. One case, an example, I was, June 1st was my birthday, and I'm out in some place in California, and I'm to have this workshop on Saturday, I believe it was, and Friday, I went to bed that night, and all of a sudden I hear Born Free, da-da-da-da, the song, Born Free, you know. And I'm in this hotel, and I'm thinking, it's in the middle of the night, and what is that, where's that coming from? So I go out on the balcony, and I thought, well, maybe the room next door was playing music. But it was coming in, Born Free, the whole song. And what I had done the week prior to my birthday, I had asked, do I have any karma, do I have any balancing to do that I'm not aware of? Please show me if I do, because, you know, sometimes when I'm doing charts, I pick up, hey, you're supposed to balance this, and at that time I wanted to know if I still needed to balance something. Well, all I knew, after I heard Born Free, I thought, okay, this is the first day of the rest of my life, my birthday, and so evidently I don't have any more karma, and that's what I assumed and let it go at that. Well, I finished my workshop. No one, my sponsor, knew I had a birthday, and so unbeknownst to me, she had set up a party in her private home for a few select friends that were attending the class, and she said she'd like to come and have dinner at her home. And I said, sure. So when I got there, we went downstairs. She had a mammoth place, and we go downstairs, and everybody jumped and said happy birthday, and she had this cake and this buffet all laid out. But what was so fascinating, this huge, huge, huge room, there were 3 pianos. I recall a red one and a white one and a mahogany. And all of a sudden, this old woman shuffles up towards us, and she said, I want you to meet my mother. My mother was a pianist, and she was with the Philharmonic Orchestra, and this piano was given to her when she was in France, and she still plays, and what would you like to hear? And this woman nudged her daughter and says, I know what I'm supposed to play for her. And she wobbles on back to the piano and starts playing Born Free, da-da-da-da-da, you know, with emphasis that the windows vibrated. And she plays the whole song of Born Free, and then she shuffles back up to us and pats me and smiles and walks off. Okay, how does this happen? I mean, what happened here? I had no control over any of this. And those were things that would happen to me, just out of the blue. And, well, out of the blue, I would say guidance. I mean, people from other dimensions, they have the telepathic abilities by communicating. Let's get in the here and now. I'm concerned right now. I'm going to digress here a minute, because I'm concerned about our home security system here, that we're having all of the shows now. Let's say one of them is Dash Forward, Pass Forward. Some of the E.T. shows, many of the shows that are now being seen, the Ghost Whisperer to some degree to the medium, etc., that are introducing people to other dimensions, other galaxies, other universes, etc. Well, our home security system was concerned about Point Forward is the show. Was the most recent one, and they would approach the writers of these shows and ask, where did you get your information? They would think there was a leak in our government that has access to all this information, incidentally. No, the writers would say, this is vivid imagination. None of this is vivid imagination. You are telepathically being told what to write, and it sounds like fiction or faction. But what it is, it's sort of numbing the public to when all of this transpires, and it's in an ongoing process now, in this evolutionary process. It's happening, but it's an upstepping process, and so eventually all of us will have this capability, communicating in other dimensions, going to other galaxies, other universes, etc. Light system, plant systems, and so forth. It's just an ongoing process.
What an interesting note to have to leave it on today. Oh, boy. Well,
are we through?
We are. It just zips by. I could talk to you forever. I swear to God.
You're now tuned in to Nicole Whitney's News for the Soul highlights. Life-changing spotlights she has shared with leading teachers in the human consciousness field since 1997. Go now to newsforthesoul.com to hear the full shows totally free. That's newsforthesoul.com.
How would you like to learn how to bend metal with your mind for real? Well, you can. News for the Soul is home to the one and only Spoon Bending Kit, an instantly downloadable digital gift that contains 2 hours of audio and visual instructions designed to get your mind out of the way and teach you how to truly affect solid matter just with your thoughts. Find out once and for all how you are affecting your reality with every thought you think. Don't let anything block you from creating the life that you want. Download the newsforthesoul.com Spoon Bending Kit today. Just go to newsforthesoul.com right now and click on the bent spoon. That's newsforthesoul.com.
Now, you can take News for the Soul Radio with you. Our free new app is now live on Google Play and Apple Store. Listen to live and archived shows and much more. Search for News for the Soul in your app store. That's News for the Soul.
You're listening to News for the Soul, life-changing talk radio since January 1997. We'll be right back with more in a moment. But first, I'd like to tell you about an amazing opportunity to tell our listeners about what you do. We're currently looking for like-minded services and products to feature in our upcoming Gifts for the Soul series. If what you have to offer can change lives, then we want to hear from you. Go to newsforthesoul.com right now and send us an email. That's newsforthesoul.com.
We all love to hear the good news, so we all should rush to hear the good news. But we can just find the good news. NFTS, NFTS. News for the soul at the very best. NFTS, NFTS. News for the soul at the very best. NFTS, NFTS. News for the soul at the very best. Yeah man, just log on to www.newsforthesoul.com. You hear me? We are a life-changing talk radio. We give you good news to keep you on the go. And you can also share the good news you know. And that's the way we keep in the flow. Wah! We only focus on the positive things, yeah. We only focus on the positive things, yeah. We not go put none of the negative in there. We not go put none of the negative in there. NFTS, NFTS. News for the soul at the very best. NFTS, NFTS. News for the soul at the very best. Log on to www.newsforthesoul.com. Every time, come hear the good news, share the good news. And we all feeling good.